This is Bianca Eshoko. I'm doing an interrogation on a Trinity O'Neill on the Wisconsin versus Yoder case. Trinity, please state your name
Trinity O'Neill,
and your age.
17.
Now, what are the facts of the Wisconsin versus Yoder case?
The facts are, so the Amish and Mennonite community are a rural group that, because they are self-sufficient, pulled their kids out of school in 8th grade.
So, Trinity, what caused the lawsuit to occur?
So Wisconsin raised their mandatory age to attend school to 16, and the Amish and Mennonite communities decided to pull their children out of school at 14, and the state didn't like that, so they decided to sue them.
Okay, then when did it happen?
So this case started December 8th, 1971, and the final decision for this case was May 15th, 1972.
Trinity, what constitutional clauses were debated by the case?
The state of Wisconsin used the compulsory education law to debate their side of the case, while Yoder used its First Amendment with the free extra clause to debate theirs.
What was the ruling of the state court and who won?
In the state ruling, they sided with Wisconsin, and they convicted the Amish and Mennonite community of truancy and fined them $5, which they refused to pay.
So, what is truancy?
Truancy is when you don't go to school for any good reason.
What was the ruling of the federal court case and who won?
So the Supreme Court decided to rule in favor of Yoder. This was a unanimous vote, 7-0. And the reason why they decided to do this was because they believed the state was abusing their power and that they weren't allowing the Amish and Mennonite communities to use their free exercise clause.
Perfect.
Why was this case important to the protections of civil rights or civil liberties?
Okay, so the Wisconsin versus Yoder case is important to the protection of civil rights and civil liberties because it protected the people's First Amendment rights. In regards to civil rights, the Supreme Court expanded it by ruling that Yoder's First Amendment rights were being violated. In other words, the Supreme Court stated that it was Yoder's civil right to not attend school because of their religion, the right to free speech, religion, and press, the First Amendment. In terms of civil liberties, the Supreme Court protected the old order Amish and Mennonite communities from the state government's abuse and not being considerate and respectful of their religion, and which in turn limited their rights.
How do you feel about the ruling of the case, and how does this case impact the world today?
Personally, I believe that the federal court made the correct final ruling. As someone who strongly believes in equality, it is important to recognize that the Wisconsin versus Yoder case wasn't exactly about whether or not students are attending school, but that they're not being treated equally in regards to the religion they practice. And a real-world example that we have today is, for one thing, Catholics who take communion, or which is where people from ages 7 and up drink the blood of Christ, and it's wine, and then they eat the body of Christ, which is bread. So from 1986 to up to present-day America, the legal drinking age was announced as age 21. This is extremely significant because if it weren't for the Wisconsin versus Yoder case being ruled with the First Amendment rights, then Catholics would have gone to court with the state stating that they went against the law because 7 and 8-year-olds are drinking when the legal age is 21. Because it was more common for one to be Catholic than Old Order Amish, I feel that the Old Order Amish and Mennonites were taken to court as the state was not considering their religious reasons as justifiable as a Catholic person, which should not be the case. In other words, if it were a Catholic person, the state may not have taken the ruling that it did, which would have limited civil liberty.
This case is important because it established a 3-part test.